Well, we've got some fireworks already in the Texas Senate, and legislation is not even being considered. Hey, everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. If the relationship between Texas State Senator Seliger and the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick were strained before Tuesday, they became even more strained on Tuesday afternoon. Got a story here from the Texas Tribune. Seliger, the Texas state senator who is viewed by many as a more moderate voice in the Texas Senate, someone who is on the more moderate side of the Republican Party. He has been stripped of his only chairmanship of this session after he went after one of the lieutenant governor's senior advisors. This from the Texas Tribune here. Announced on Tuesday afternoon, starting last Friday, that's where all this started. Patrick released the committee assignments for the legislative session, stripping Seliger of his longtime post as chairman of the Senate Higher Education Committee. He took him off the committee entirely, according to the Texas Tribune. Instead, Seliger was appointed to chair a newly created Ag Committee, which split off from a larger existing committee. Patrick said only that committee assignments were based on a number of factors. And remember, it's the lieutenant governor's choice who he gets to appoint to different committees. Is there some seniority involved? Of course. Is there politics to play? Absolutely. There is. And Seliger, he said in an interview that the snub was a very clear warning. That's a quote, a very clear warning that Republicans had better toe the line. And the Tribune then says that in response, Sherry Sylvester, a senior advisor to the lieutenant governor, said, quote, if Senator Seliger believes serving as chair of the Ag Committee, a critical committee for West Texas and all of rural Texas, is beneath him, he should let us know and the lieutenant governor will appoint someone else. It was after that Seliger said in a radio interview that, basically, Sherry Sylvester, her lips could meet his back end, which is basically the nice way of saying she could kiss his ass. Lieutenant Governor was not very happy with this. The Lieutenant Governor, and I had heard this on Monday evening, actually, Monday afternoon, from a source down in Austin, that Dan Patrick was livid about the comments made by Senator Seliger, that the comments that he made really beneath a Texas state senator, especially when going after a female aide to the lieutenant governor. And telling a female aide, or saying a female aide can, kiss his back end, you can see where the lieutenant governor would be a little bit upset about this. The lieutenant governor issued a press release on Tuesday saying, hey, I gave Seliger 48 hours to apologize. He did not, and instead Seliger said she should apologize to me. Okay, well, that wasn't going to happen, and it didn't sit well with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, so he stripped Seliger of his only committee chairmanship in this session, and that means he won't chair a committee. He will just be a member. Now, for those of you who are maybe watching this going, well, what's the big deal about that? There is, there's some prestige there, and there's also some importance there. Seliger, in my opinion, dug this hole for himself. There's no question at all that Seliger and the lieutenant governor do not see eye to eye. Seliger, in my opinion, should have at least tried to make the best of the situation of being appointed to the Ag Committee. He should have said, you know what, this is the lieutenant governor's prerogative. This is what the lieutenant governor gets to do. He's elected lieutenant governor. He gets to make the choices of who is on, who chairs what committees. we're not owed anything. This is what he should have said, but instead he acted as though he was owed the chairmanship of higher ed. Now, listen, we could debate all day whether he should be chairman of higher ed. We can have a debate over whether or not it's a good thing, whether it's a good thing to have a chair of an ag community. We can debate that all day. The point of the matter is these two aren't seeing eye to eye, and we're going into a session that is not going to be easy. And Kel Seliger, that 19th vote in the Texas State Senate, which would allow votes to continue and allow passage, there's going to be a lot of difficulty here. And we're going to visit with Scott Braddock about this on the Wednesday edition of the show, and we'll also talk with some other guests throughout the rest of the week about this dynamic and about how it'll play out, not only impacting West Texas, but also impacting conservative Republican legislation moving out of the Senate and attempting to go to the House. When we're talking about important legislation like property tax reform and property tax cap, when we're talking about education funding, Kel Seliger is going to prove critical on many of those issues. Now, I'm not saying Dan Patrick needs to wine and dine Kel Seliger, but these two do need to get along in order to make, in my opinion, good legislation come out of the Texas Senate. So there needs to be some type of a bridge between these two within the next week or two, I would hope, or at least during this legislative session. There's way too much important legislation that's going to be debated for just to be left on the Senate floor. Can't happen. These two have got to get together at some point. My I guess advice to Kel Seliger would be apologize to the aide, apologize to Miss Sylvester, apologize to her for comments that you said on the radio. They were stupid comments. Let's be honest. You were probably much more upset with the lieutenant governor than you are her. So, you know what? If you're going to, throw some fire out there, fire at Dan Patrick, okay? He can take it. He'll fire it right back at you. He already has. And so you might as well concentrate your fire on him, not an aide to the lieutenant governor. It was a bad move from Kel Seliger. It was a move that was not advisable, and a move that honestly should not have been made by Seliger. He has hurt his district more than he has hurt anybody else, and that's a shame for his district. There are a lot of good people who want to see good, meaningful property tax reform, good, meaningful education funding, reform, you could call it, and other important pieces of legislation. He needs to get on the same page, or at least sort of the same page, as the lieutenant governor and as other Republicans in the Texas State Senate. I have no problem with him if he wants to, think of himself as this independent mind in the Texas Senate. But we all know there is conservative legislation that needs to move out of the Texas Senate, and he's going to be critical at doing that. He made a mistake here in going after the lieutenant governor's senior staffer. Some people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I truly believe that is the case. Seliger dug his own hole here. It's up to him to make his way out of that hole, not only for him in his political future, but also for his constituents, and that's much more important. Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time. News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 a.m. KFYO.